Welcome, beautiful people, and thank you for joining us on Till the Wheels Fall Off, a podcast by Two Folk Couple. I'm Matt.
And I'm Paige.
And we're here to inspire others, to bring you guys into our lives and tell you a little bit about our journey. Over 20 years together, we've learned a few things.
We're going to work toward being the best version of yourself possible. We're going to dig into building a positive mindset, discuss mental health, addiction recovery, improving fitness, building businesses, and insight into what it takes to navigate life today.
Welcome back to another episode of Till the Wheels Fall Off. I'm Matt.
I'm Paige.
We've had a lot going on here lately.
Yes.
Crazy. It's the holidays, right? So that's already like insane. Just nuts. Like we've got one kid upstairs. So they're out of school right now. We've got one upstairs. It is like almost 10 o'clock and she is deeply involved in a game of something that requires a lot of yelling.
Probably The Sims.
I don't know what it is.
Or Roblox.
They're up there going
She's really
nuts.
good at Roblox. She builds really cool houses. I love it.
Oh man, we've got.
And the other kids away.
Yeah, we've been trying to navigate getting things done with the kids around full time, and it's tough. So like, I've had a glimpse of what it's like to be a stay-at-home parent recently. Yeah. Man, respect. That's all I gotta say. Respect.
Or a working from home parent.
Yeah, if you're a work from home parent, respect.
Woo, man, it's a totally different ball game.
You have all my respect. That is so much. It's just so mentally taxing trying to get things done and not feel like a neglectful parent at the same time. Yeah, it's really rough.
You have to wear a lot of hats, and it's really interesting. Like it takes an emotional toll on you after a
You're
while.
You're right. It does,
because you can't focus on one thing. Like when you're at work, you can focus just on that, or you can be on your phone and whatever. You can kind of
kick back at times.
You can kick back. When you're at home, you can't do that.
No.
Maybe 10 minutes, and that's about it.
It's a lot. It's a lot. But we've been incredibly busy. We released our course. You guys have probably heard us reference this course. And so start off by saying we take a ton of pride offering free resources, FREE. We always have. The podcast, we've got website, we've got blog articles, we've got the community, we've got community calls, Zoom calls, which you got one coming up, well, actually, this week. You would have already had the call at this point by the time you hear this episode.
Yes, that's true.
But
newsletter.
Yes. Newsletter as well. So if you're not in our Facebook community.
Well, no, you don't have to do that. You can just go to our website and sign up for the newsletter.
Do it there.
You just subscribe, put your email address on there. And it's awesome because Matt he's a really good writer and he's able to express himself in this newsletter. And I'm really excited about it. Don't. You need to take this compliment, please.
I don't like it.
Why? He doesn't like it when I compliment. You're such a great writer. I love it.
I've always liked writing, but I've always been hesitant to share it with other people.
Well, anyway, this is another free resource for everybody, and you get a little bit deeper into what we'll. Stories.
So but anyway, so if you're not on the newsletter, hop on the newsletter. But our course is our first paid resource.
Yes.
And if you head over, go ahead.
I'm so excited about this course. We've been working on it forever. And it is completely different than anything else out there that you'll find.
It is comprehensive as it gets.
Yes. So we have the perspective from me, the spouse, you as the addict, and then a professional therapist is involved.
Yeah, we have a clinical perspective as well.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's thorough. It's robust. I think it's incredible. And it's going to help a ton of people.
Yeah.
If you're interested in it, you can head over to independentlystrong.com. Wheelies get 75% off with the code Wheelies75.
Yep.
Would love to have people in there. And we're also involved in it as well.
Yes, we're involved in it. So you can comment in it. And we're with you along the ride. Yeah.
So to kind of guide you through it. If you're ever at a point where you're like, hey, I watched the video, I did the exercises. What about this though? The three of us are there.
Yeah. And you can also go to tufo.com too, if that's easier.
It's available through our website as well?
Yes, it is.
Okay, very cool. But it's awesome. We're super proud of it. Again, like we pride ourselves on being a free resource for people, but for anyone that wants to take their recovery to that extra level, wants a little more care, a little more individual perspective.
Do you want me to tell you what's in it?
Please.
Okay. I was going to do it later, but we'll say what's in it real quick.
Okay. Yeah.
Because then we'll talk about, this isn't what we're talking about in the episode. We're letting y'all know that there's something else that we're talking about, but this is just.
Oh, you're going to want to stick around for the episode.
Yes. You want to stick around to actually listen because it has
one.
been requested. So in the course, we focus or we touch on trauma bonds, relationship dynamics. Like I said earlier, from the addict's perspective.
We have addiction education module.
Like what is abuse?
Yep.
You talked about that. Self-awareness, managing triggers, building a healthy self, boundaries, what are boundaries, how to set boundaries, we have a formula for boundaries, what communication looks like, making a life-changing decision, and even a maintenance section. There's worksheets, exercises, and then like we said earlier, the ability to chat with us while you're working on it.
Yeah, and it's research-backed.
Yes.
We have a clinical architect to put this together. We've got a clinical perspective for each and every module.
Right.
It's amazing.
And what makes it different is that it's from people with experience as well.
Yeah, it's lived experience of people,
and
combined with clinical perspectives.
I speak, a lot of people can relate to me, and I think
that's
huge.
Like we're not in there dropping $5 words. Like we're there to relate to people.
I'm the majority of the course, so you're going to hear from me and what I have to say and my stories and how I got through things. I mean, it's just a really good course, and we're
super proud of it and happy to share it with people.
Yeah. Okay,
we're super excited. But anyway, so what's this episode about? This has been requested. We've actually done this before. You good?
I'm good. I feel like I've had coffee, but I haven't.
Detaching with love.
Part 2.
Possibly the most confusing concept in the realm of spousal and partner recovery. Mm-hmm. Next to boundaries, I would say this is the one that people really, really struggle with.
Boundaries are included in it. So yeah.
We get a lot of questions about this in the community where I think it's such a paradoxical concept. Detaching with love. It's paradoxical. Love means getting closer. It means bonding. It means, giving. But
sharing your lives together.
Detaching with love is a little confusing.
Yeah.
But it is something that is required as part of your recovery. As part of your recovery, as part of your empowerment, this has to happen at some point. For Paige, this happened naturally over time. Mm-hmm. You weren't even really aware what this concept was when you were doing it.
No,
which has always been fascinating to me because I think psychologically there's something to that.
To it, absolutely.
But I do think that you can also make the decision to do this. It's tough either way. It's really tough.
Once you become educated about it, you can start practicing.
Okay, and I am keenly aware that something like about 94% of our audience is female.
You just pulled that out of your butt.
Well, it's 92%, but it's gone up, and I want to say it's not quite.
You
95.
looked at that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like roughly 8% of our audience is men.
You know stats. You're a stat man.
So I'm a stat
man.
Nice. That was a good one. All right, so I'm aware that I'm talking to mostly women, but stick with my little tiny male brain here as I try to come up with an analogy that makes sense.
You used to tell me I had a small brain.
That was a joke from Borat. That wasn't honest.
You still said it.
I think I don't want to say it out loud here, but I think that women are usually smarter than most guys, but
we are emotional
intelligence blown out of the water.
Yes,
for
we
sure.
Are. Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Facts.
But anyway, yeah. Anyway, so I'm gonna relate this as best I can to like a concept that I understand that I think a lot of people can also understand.
Okay.
I'm gonna talk football for just a moment.
Yay.
Sports for just a moment. Okay.
Yeah, don't leave. Stick around.
Okay, so I am a fan of a team called the Dallas Cowboys. Please don't turn us off. Please don't turn us off, okay? If you're a fan from somewhere else, I promise we're not the weird, annoying ones. Like, we're not the ones that are like, oh, yeah. No,
we were born and raised.
Very realistic, like, understand, like they've been trashed for a long time.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's part of the story, actually.
Yeah.
So, at one point in my life, they were winning Super Bowls, and they were, like, kings of the world, and I fell in love with them. Absolutely fell in love with them. They had shown me something so amazing when I was a little kid. And I sort of thought, like, there's more of this to come. This is what it's like to be a fan of this team. And for the next 25 years, you know what they did? Just L after L after. It just disappointed me. They're just good enough to break your freaking heart. Yeah. And I used to get so worked up watching them. Mm-hmm. And I would be, like, upset for days after a loss. Mm-hmm. Like, really upset. Like, so invested to the point where you're in it, and like you get visceral reactions, like you get angry, you get worked up, stressed, you name it. I don't do that anymore. I detached with love.
Yes.
Do I love them any less? No. Still love them to death. I just changed my expectations of them, which is where we're going to run our conversation. I think expectations have so much to do with your ability to detach from someone or something in this case.
Yeah.
Because my expectations were they're going to be great. They showed me they were great one time. They're going to keep being great. But reality was they were...
Their patterns were showing you.
Basura.
What?
Garbage.
What did you just say?
Basura? Spanish for garbage.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
I learned something new
you're
today.
You're from the South.
I took German in high school.
Oh, that's right. You're the president of the German club or something.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, anyway, they've been trash, and they've shown me that they're just pretty good. They're not great. They're pretty good. And I should expect them to be pretty good. If I expect them to be high caliber Super Bowl winning team, then that's on me.
Yes.
At some point.
Absolutely.
I'm like, where's that come from? You know, being overly optimistic, only looking at the positive, discounting all the negative. We're going to talk a bit about that, but I think we can learn something from this analogy.
I think it's
just
great.
Keep that in mind for a moment as we go through
I
this.
couldn't think of something similar for females or something else.
Please do, because that
I don't know, and not necessarily females, because I love football and I like sports, so.
Yeah, you do. You've always been good with that.
I don't know. I couldn't think of anything, but I thought that was interesting, and I thought it went really well.
Okay, so preface the conversation with that. So go ahead. Take it from here.
Okay, I was going to ask, so a good question would be, when do you start detaching?
That's a loaded question.
Okay.
I think that the best answer, though, is you need to detach when you seem to care more about another person's well-being than they do.
That's huge. And that's what naturally happened with us, honestly.
Yeah.
Because I was like, I care too much and he's not doing anything, so I'm just going to start detaching.
It's difficult, but I think a lot of people know what that feels like. To care more about someone's well-being, their future, them reaching their potential, that dangerous word potential, than they do.
Right.
Than they do. I think that's where we start, is like, when do you do this? You're probably there.
Yeah, you're probably there. Absolutely. Well, I detach still. Like we'll get to that in just a moment.
Yeah, that's an important.
But I do want to tell you
back to that.
Yes. So another question I think that's big is like, does it need to be communicated with your partner that you're detaching?
Do you have to say like,
do you have to say like, hey,
this morning,
just letting you know, I'm going to detach.
No, not
like,
necessarily.
I'm going to go do that. No, you don't have to tell them what you're doing or why you're doing it. You know, only boundaries need to be communicated. But say like, you need to go do some self-care or something. He's like, I'm going to go to the gym. You're detaching a little bit, but you're not telling them, oh yeah, I'm doing this because I need to detach from your ass. You know, it's not like that. It's not how you go about it.
Right.
It's just an action that you take.
Yeah, you don't necessarily have to spell it out for them.
Right.
Okay. Kick us off here.
Okay, so I just kicked it off.
Well, this is your episode, like the outline. Let's roll through this thing.
Oh my jeez, Louise.
You write the best episodes.
Well, yeah, but it's like this one's all over the place. Okay. So detaching is important in all relationships. This is not just for the relationships that we deal with.
Yeah, like you see this present in not just relationships with addicts, alcoholics, but even with your children.
Yep.
This happens.
This is healthy. Detaching is healthy. It's a part of being interdependent with people. Another
term for detachment that you probably are very aware of and very much understand is tough love. Mm-hmm. Tough love is very similar to detaching with love.
And it's not tough love in a way of screaming, nagging, yelling, telling somebody what to do.
No, that's not tough love.
No, tough love is allowing people to have consequences for their actions.
Natural consequences of their actions.
Yes.
That's what we do.
That's kind of what tough love, I guess, is.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
A lot of the times partners of addicts, alcoholics get thrown into this bucket with this label called codependency.
Yes.
And codependency, I think what's the literature that's out there on it. We cover this better in the course, but the literature that's out there on codependency does do a pretty good job at describing the types of personalities that are present. Mm-hmm. But I don't like the term at all. I don't like the label at all. I think it's whatever. I got my own opinions about it. But either way, generally what you have though is someone who is so invested in the relationship that they're doing the work of two people.
It's one-sided.
They're doing everything. Yeah. They're doing absolutely everything, and they're receiving very little back.
Right.
So
you're overcompensating, and you're trying to do everything to make this relationship work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not an interdependence relationship.
No, and it's difficult because you lose your identity in doing this. Like,
yes, you do.
You become a shell of your former self.
Mm-hmm.
You find yourself becoming someone that you don't even want to be. Like, you didn't get in this relationship so you could be someone's mother.
Yeah.
You didn't get in this relationship so that you could parent them.
Right.
You didn't get in this relationship because you wanted to look out for someone or look over someone 24/7.
Yeah.
You fell in love because they showed you something, just like that team showed me something all those years ago. And then we held on to that a little too tightly.
Yep.
And as things start to veer away, we held on to that a little too long. So then what do you do about it? You detach with love. This is the first step in empowerment, is detaching with love.
Mm-hmm.
So difficult though, because the concept in itself, like, let's put the cards on the table here and like what's really going on. In so many ways, you are preparing yourself for some type of a separation.
Or just becoming independent.
Well, whether that be an emotional separation or a physical separation, in many ways, you are looking at the reality of your relationship.
Mm-hmm.
You're removing any expectations that you used to have, and you're replacing that with the reality of what is.
Yes.
And coming to terms with that reality involves grieving.
Yes.
It involves a lot of times depression. It involves anxiety. It involves a very, very dark time in your life as you grieve your relationship, as you grieve the person that you love, as you grieve the dreams that you had.
Yeah.
That's what detaching with love is. Like, this is serious business.
Right.
This isn't something that you hear about today and that you're doing this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
This is a process that takes place over the course of years sometimes. Mm-hmm. Sometimes shorter, depends on how bad things have gotten. Yeah. Sometimes it's easier to detach when you can just give yourself permission, but you've got all the experience in the world to be like beat down, emotionally by somebody for a long period of time. It's like, it's sort of easy whenever they make it easy for you, but sometimes it's not so easy. Sometimes I was kind of what they call like a sad alcoholic, like the sad type, where it's like, I was a fun drunk kind of, and like on the surface I was pretty great, but if you lived with me, it was totally different. Yeah. So to do this, like, you're going to feel the judgment coming from people around you. You might feel like, oh my God, is this the wrong thing to do? Am I giving up too soon?
Right.
I can just tell you that from an alcoholic and addict perspective is that generally addiction is progressive. It gets worse over time.
Yes.
Seldom ever gets better.
Yep.
I've never actually seen it get better. I've personally never seen someone just learn how to control alcoholic type drinking or addict behavior. They don't just figure it out and moderate. Over time, we test the bounds over and over and over, and that takes years.
Yes.
But in the newsletter, actually, I wrote this, I wrote like a blurb. What you call this, like a blog? It's a newsletter. It's still new for me. I don't
paragraph.
know. But about how codependency and addiction are very similar.
Yes.
And they are. Mm-hmm. As an addict, here was my MO. I would use drugs, alcohol, understand that it was bad for me because I would have consequences of some kind. We were out of money. I would miss something. I would get yelled at. Like, some stuff would happen. And I would conclude not that I couldn't use drugs and alcohol. I would conclude that I just haven't found the right mixture or the right amounts. And I would try and try and try and try. Codependents do much the same thing. When their efforts to change somebody have failed, they don't conclude, I just can't control this person. Yeah. What they do is they just try harder and they try different things. Oftentimes when people find us, that's what they're doing. They're like, oh, well, they probably have the answer. They know how to fix them. Yeah. They know how to fix this person, but we don't. We don't. Like, there is no magic bullet solution to fix somebody or make them want the life that you want for them. Right. If you care more about their well-being than they do, it's time to begin to detach with love. Right. This is for you.
Yes, that's why you need to shift it. Like, the detaching with love, it's not necessarily like detaching with love and loving them. Like, you do love them. You always have compassion for them, but it's shifting it to loving yourself. You're doing this because you love yourself. It's an act of loving yourself, and that can help you to, like, shift your mind. Yeah. So we're going to go through the stages. There are some stages.
Yeah. Let's run us through them.
Okay. So the first one is acceptance. Like you said earlier about, looking at your relationship, that it's one-sided, and having that grief period that goes along with it, because it is difficult to look at reality sometimes. Yeah. Part 2 is going to be understanding your role. And this is difficult as well, because we do have a role in this. This is the codependency and understanding that we cannot fix another person. But I take this as being a relief, because you're only responsible for yourself. Like, you got to let go of that control. And then sometimes when we take on their emotions, our self-awareness becomes cloudy because we're taking on so much of their stuff. We don't know where our emotions are.
Yeah, your focus is so on them.
That you're not looking at yourself. And you have to be self-aware in order to make changes. The third step is going to be minding your own business, which is one of the things that I learned in therapy because I'm an empath. I take on your emotions. So I would always say, mind your own business, mind your own business, mind your own business. And that would help me detach from whatever it is you're going through. And then I could focus more on me. It was just too much to take on your stuff. The next step is setting boundaries. Mm-hmm. Figure out what behaviors you don't like. Write it down. Then figure out what the values you like. Yeah. Write them down and then go listen to our boundary setting series.
Yeah. Boundaries protect your values. When your values are being violated, that's often what causes the anxiety and the hurt and the everything else. So boundaries serve to protect your values.
Yes. Yeah. And so setting boundaries is a form of detaching with love.
It is. Absolutely.
Honestly, like everything, a part of the recovery, everything in your recovery is detaching with love. Yeah, you're finding a healthy balance for yourself.
I almost think detaching with love is almost just a better name for the entire process.
Agreed. Because it's not just as simple as you do this and that. You just detach. No, it's like all of it. It's shifting your focus on yourself instead of on the other person.
Right.
But still having compassion for the fact that they are struggling. It just means that you can't fix their struggles.
Yeah, this isn't like fixing a wash machine. Like you don't look up I can look up how to fix a washing machine. Yeah. And figure it out in a YouTube video.
Right.
It's not like a 1, 2, 3 task. Like this is very much like we're giving you the steps, but this is going to be very individual.
That's why it's really difficult to talk about this topic.
It's different for everyone.
And it's all the articles that we've looked up, they're all difficult. I mean, they're all different. Yeah. Yeah.
They're very
And you
cloudy,
have to like start living it to truly understand what it means.
You're right about that.
All right. So once you've set boundaries, the next part is going to be focusing on self-care. And we talk about this all the time. A lot of people talk about it and it's like, okay, well, what is it? So journaling, exercising, eating healthy, it's doing something uncomfortable that benefits you in the future. And our course actually goes into depth on self-care, which is really awesome because we get into detail a lot about journaling and other things that you can do for self-care and why it is so important. Like we really go into detail on that. And the biggest thing that I can say about self-care is that is the only thing we have control over in this life.
Yeah, your reactions, your responses, and how you treat yourself.
Yes. Your self-care is like you're trying to control somebody else and their behaviors and change them. You are letting out so much energy that doesn't serve its purpose. Put that energy toward yourself, and you know that that's all that you have control over is what you do.
Yes.
It's hard, but it's so empowering when you do it. So empowering. And then the next one's going to be empathy without enabling. And all of this, we are all such black and white thinkers, right? Like
that's the most common cognitive distortion that exists. Everyone has that to some degree.
We all pretty much have that because that's how our brains function. So when you're learning all of this stuff, it's going to be so gray. It's going to teach you how to embrace the gray area. And that's where empathy without enabling comes into play.
Yeah, detaching with love is a gray area concept.
Yes.
So oftentimes our brains work in this categorization system where it's like two files. It's either black or white. It's either left or right. It's either good or bad. When we get this third option, there's kind of gray and kind of in between the two. We're like, wait, no. Because we've never really been like, that's just how we're raised. It's how our brains work. It's how we learn.
It's how society teaches us as well.
So when it comes to this third area, it's like, wow, that's weird.
It's like there's more options.
But once you figure it out, it's incredibly empowering to know that like you can carve your own path. You can walk your own way. You can do whatever you want. Mm-hmm. There's no rule book that says you have to follow that path or this path. You create your own path.
Yep.
And this is kind of the path that no one really discusses. Yeah. And because you have to be empowered to do it. There's not a tried, tested method that's like, okay, we're going to do this or do that. Like everyone knows how to be in a relationship. Hollywood's taught us how to do this. Like we naturally fall in love with people. Like we know what love looks like.
Yeah.
We also know what divorce looks like. We know what separation looks like. But what about the in-between? Mm-hmm. What about this weird stage where like like leaving is not an option for me right now.
Right.
But I am with someone that breaks my heart every single day. What do I do? This is what you do. You detach with love.
Yep.
It's the middle ground that bridges the two.
Yes.
Right? If you're not in love and you're not separated, this is how you protect yourself and your esteem and your soul and your mind in between the two.
Yeah.
So that you can get to that place maybe one day safely, or maybe things come back the other way like they did for us, where you detached and I was like, hang on, time out. You're not going anywhere.
Yep.
I got to figure this out.
Right.
And I did, but we've been transparent about this from the very beginning. That's the more rare case. A lot of other people will have to go the other direction, but there are also some people that stay in that middle area for a long time.
Yes.
Like they're pretty comfortable there.
Yeah.
And that's cool too.
Yes. Yeah. And I did not detach to change you. And
No,
your
you did not.
behaviors.
No, it was never a conscious thing where it's like, I'm gonna
do this and maybe he'll change his ways.
Like,
no,
no.
It didn't. That's not what it was about. It was literally to take care of myself and our daughter and to become more independent and be okay without him.
A word on that quickly.
Yes.
'Cause I think a lot of folks do that. So many times spouses, partners, like as part of their effort to fix this person, fix this alcoholic or this addict, they will throw out these ultimatum type things.
Yeah.
A lot of times these ultimatums come in the form of punishment. So people will detach and they'll feel really cold about it. And it will be sort of cold because it feels uncomfortable. Detaching doesn't mean like when you come home, and they like, you don't tell them that you're detaching, right? So they just come home one afternoon after work and you're sitting there and they come in and start talking to you and you just go quiet and leave the room.
Right.
That's not really detaching.
No.
They're going to look at that and go, what's your problem?
Right.
And you're going to have to explain it, and then things get weird quickly.
Yeah.
You detach internally. It's
Yes.
something you do inside. It's a really painful process that you have with yourself as you're sort of letting this person go, even though they're right in front of you.
Right.
You're looking at them like, you've broken my heart so many times. You're going to keep doing it. If patterns tell me anything, this will keep happening. And you start to let go inside.
Yeah.
It's so difficult though. That third option. Ugh,
Yeah.
man, it's tough.
Yeah. So the last step is going to be developing independence, which is a form of self-care too, but it's more of like starting a new hobby, going out to eat with friends or even alone. Maybe you want to get in a book club or go to family get-togethers without them. Do what makes you happy and brings peace to yourself.
Yep.
And then let's say that you want to start saving money, make sure you maybe get a side job, start prepping, or in case you do have to leave at some point. That's okay to do that on the side. You're developing your independence so that when the time does come, or if the time does come to where you're like, okay, I'm at a place where I can't do this anymore, you're ready to push forward and do whatever you need to do. Make a very difficult decision. But it's important to develop your independence and not be reliant on your partner all the time.
I agree with that.
And that's hard. It's hard to be, it's hard to say that. But whenever I was detaching from you in my head, I was planning, I had a career, I had a job, I had a great job. I was like, all right, I need to get another bank account. I'm going to get a separate bank account if this happens again. I was very close to doing it. I was thinking, okay, I have to have a car payment. I can do this. I have to pay for my car. My car was cheap. It was good. I was like, I've got that. I can go get a small apartment with my daughter. I can do this. I've got this. I didn't plan it. I didn't tell you that I was doing it, but in my head, I was starting to plan it. And that was part of my detaching, to be prepared, to become independent and not rely on you.
Yeah. That's the elephant in the room anytime we're talking about this. That's so difficult to tell someone that their dreams and this plan they had is just not working out. And you have to get to a place where you're at peace with accepting that that's reality, and you're at peace with accepting that I'm not going to get that. And if I keep doing what I'm doing, I'm still not going to get that. And in fact, it'll probably be more painful. So it's almost like like I said, almost like a pre-separation. It's like, but it's internally within yourself. It's almost hard to describe until you do it. But I will say this, is that I do believe wholeheartedly that people get to this point naturally over time, where you will get to a point where you feel numb, like you you're not hot
That's
or cold about it.
Yes.
You're just like, I'm at peace with this. I've accepted it. This is what it is.
Yes.
But this is not what I want. And I don't love you any less. Like, I still feel for you. I know that you're dealing with things.
Yes.
But I can't do this anymore.
Right.
This hurts me too bad. This is not what I planned for my life. And while I love you, and I probably always will, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And you walk. And that's it. To get to that place, that's like your rock bottom. That's like the codependence rock bottom.
Right.
But it happens naturally. But I think that you can also, just like an addict, like they say that we hit rock bottom when we stop digging. And that's a conscious decision to stop digging. Like I'm considered a high bottom alcoholic. I didn't have to do what they said you have to do. I didn't have to lose my family. I didn't have to lose my career. I didn't have to wreck a car and go to jail. I didn't have to do any of those things. I recognized it, and just like I did, people can do this as well. But you have to be convinced of the reality of your situation.
Yeah.
I was convinced, absolutely convinced, that no amount of drugs or alcohol were going to be possible for me. So if that wasn't the case, if I couldn't do it, then what was the option? I had to go to treatment. I had to get sober, abstinence, everything else. Codependence, same thing. If you were convinced with the experience that you have up to this point that this is what life looks like, then you have to make the decision.
Yeah.
But you don't just up and leave something. You don't just decide to go after however long history you guys have. You have families, there's a lot to unwind, and that doesn't happen overnight. And then you're going to be in a really dark place while this is going on, which is why I encourage people to get with a community, which is why we built the community, the Twofold community, to get spouses and partners linked up with each other so that you don't feel alone in this darkness.
Right.
You've got us. We're here as well. You've got tons of people that are going through this.
Yeah.
I want you to know that you're not alone through it, and it will be painful. It will be the most painful thing you've ever done. It's like, try watching someone die while they're still alive. That's sort of what it's like.
Yeah, but then it can be beautiful too, because you are starting to really find your true authentic self.
There's nothing more powerful and more fulfilling than doing that.
Yeah.
It will always hurt to some degree.
Yeah.
But you will be so grateful that you didn't get what you thought you wanted.
Yeah. Yes. That right there.
At the end of it. It's ridiculously hard though. And like, I don't want to sugarcoat it in it by any means. Like, we're talking about people's lives here. We're talking about their marriages and their families and everything else. And I know there's kids involved, and there's finances and everything else. So it doesn't happen overnight. And it's totally cool. And it's okay if you go back and forth on this.
Yes.
10, 15 times. It's okay. It's a
practice.
process, y'all.
Yes.
It's a process. It's not a decision you just make and do. Like, you will have relapses as well.
Yeah.
You will go back and forth as you fall in love again with that potential. And then they show you that, no, really, I am what I am. And then you have to get your heart broken again. And each time that happens, they take a little chunk of you. And then eventually there's nothing left. And you get to a place where you're like, oh, okay, this is what it is. This is definitely not what I wanted, but I accept it. And I'm okay with it. And my expectation has changed now. My expectation is not that you are going to make everything better. You'll go to treatment. Life will be beautiful. You'll be happy. My expectation is this is going to keep happening, and I have to take care of myself. Yeah. That becomes the expectation. And once that happens, it becomes easier.
Right.
But the middle ground there is so hard.
Right.
So freaking hard.
Yeah, it is.
It's painful. You'll have a million questions and feel like, oh my God, it's awful.
Yeah. So we had said earlier that I still detach with love. We had people ask us to actually do an episode on how do I reattach when I've detached.
Oh yeah.
Like when people are in, sobriety. Well, you don't want to go back to how you were before.
Yeah. This is something I think a lot of couples struggle with in general.
Yes, it is healthy to detach with love within your marriage.
Yeah. A lot of times people will say, I just want things to go back to the way that they were.
Yeah.
I want things to go back to normal.
Yeah.
But the normal, quote unquote, normal is what got us here. So in fact, like, we should look a little harder at that. And you don't really want that.
No.
You don't want that.
No, you don't.
There was a lot going on there. Now, was it better than this? Maybe in some ways, but ultimately there was something underneath the surface there bubbling up that led us to this point. So reattaching, let's think about what a new version of this relationship looks like. It's almost like you have to reintroduce yourself. Hey, my name's Matt. How are you? Yeah. We get to know each other all over again. Right. With new truths about each other, new styles of communication, understanding each other's values, understanding each other's boundaries. And it's a much different relationship. Things will never be the way that they were before. No. You can't unlearn something like this. You can't unexperience these things.
Yeah.
You can't lie to yourself to the point where these things never happened. Reattaching, it looks like a totally new relationship.
It does.
That's the answer to that question. I think.
That's good. Yeah. Like, what are examples of detaching with love in relationships?
Here's what it looked like in our life. Here's an example from our life.
Yeah.
Paige is, in our marriage, it's funny to this day, even famous for telling me things a million times, and like any guy, I forget about it.
I stopped doing that.
But let's say that you had big plans to go, I don't know, into town and take some family photos and get a good lunch and like have the kids play in the park. And you've told them about this so many times. Like, listen, 3 weeks out.
We have a family day on Saturday.
Hey, don't forget, Saturday we've got the family thing planned. And you say it because you know what happens Friday night. Mm-hmm. You know what he does Friday night.
Right.
He goes out and he gets hammered drunk with his friends and he's useless all day Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
Or he wakes up Saturday morning, gets ready for college football, and he's plastered by 11.
Mm-hmm.
But you've told him a million times. The day comes, and what happens? He's either hungover, an absolute wreck, or he's high and drunk and acting ridiculous.
Yeah. So what do you do?
Typically, you lose your mind.
Uh-huh.
You go crazy.
Yeah.
I told you, you always do this to me. How could you treat me this way? You cry in the bathroom. You consider that your whole life is ruined. Like you have these massive emotions and panic attacks, and like your life is ruined. Like you're texting your friends and family, cannot believe he did this to me. But when you detach with love, you do something a little different.
Yeah.
You look at them and you say, that figures. And you go to the park by yourself.
No, you don't even say that.
You don't. You say that. You say that to yourself.
Oh, to yourself. I'm like, don't say that because that's just going to be like.
No, you look at them and you're like, yeah, that's about right. That's about
right.
par. That's the best par for the course.
Expectations.
The expectation is this is usually what they do, and instead of your expectation being exceeding the reality of the situation, you just accept it. And you're like, yeah, that's right. That's who they are.
Yeah.
You go to the park by yourself,
or with your
maybe
kids.
You bring a family member with you, your mother, somebody.
You go on with your day.
Take the kids and you have a great day.
Yes.
You enjoy that day.
Let them suffer or do whatever they're doing or enjoy themselves.
You let them live in the misery that they've chosen.
Yes.
Leave people in the reality they've chosen for themselves. Right. That needs to be more normalized, I think, in general.
Oh, I agree.
Leaving toxic people in the reality they've chosen for themselves.
Agreed.
Some will say, well, addiction is not a choice. And here I am saying, well, kind of sometimes it is.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a little gray too.
Well, recovery is a choice. So.
Yeah, and so is the choice to pick up in the first place.
Yes.
So, yeah, but I know sometimes it's helpless and it's compulsion, all that. Whatever. You can leave people. It doesn't matter. You were being affected here, okay?
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what you do. And this is what you did.
Yes.
You started to do these things.
Right.
I would want to sit at home in a hole and drink all day and be miserable and negative, and you're like, you know what?
Bye. Mm-hmm.
And you would take the kids and go, and you shut the door and be like, whoa.
The kid.
Yeah. Yeah, so there's one at that time. I'd be like, whoa, she just walked out of here.
Yeah, because I was tired of sitting in your mess.
But you weren't consciously doing this. Okay,
No.
Now someone hearing this episode is going to be like, okay, well, I have to consciously start making these decisions. You might already be doing these things without even realizing it because you just get to a point where you're like, listen, I've got a life to live. Nothing's changed for me. I still have dreams and aspirations. It's heartbreaking to think that you may not be part of them, but you are not going to stop me from living. You're not going to stop my kids from enjoying their life. You can choose to be a part of this or not, but I'm not forcing you. Mm-hmm. That's the difference is you no longer force a square peg into the round hole.
Every episode, I swear, I think you say that.
Do I really?
I think so.
You get a shirt that just says square peg, round hole.
Yes.
And I am the square peg, round hole guy.
Yes,
I've
you
done
are.
this my whole life.
Yes, you are.
I've gotten better at it.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, like what are some other examples, things you used to do with me?
I wouldn't wake you up when you needed to go to work.
That's right.
And I'm still like that. I'm like, that's his responsibility. If he's late for work or if he's late for doing whatever,
there are consequences.
The consequences are on you. That's not my problem.
Letting people experience natural consequences. Remember from the beginning of the episode, we let people experience natural consequences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's also whenever we're talking about communication and not arguing with somebody who is, not being rational, like that's a part of detaching. When you practice not losing your mind on somebody when they do what you don't want them to do.
Yeah, not taking things personally is another big piece of it. And it's easy to say, don't take it personally, but it's hard when someone calls you a really ugly thing or says
they're affecting your life. They are affecting your life.
Yeah.
Like that it's
when
hard.
someone's emotionally abusing you or
Yes.
like verbally abusing you in that moment, it's hard not to take it like personally.
Right.
But do your best to understand that this person is dealing with an addiction, and it doesn't excuse the behaviors.
No.
But it explains why at 2:00 in an afternoon on Sunday, when I've done nothing wrong, he's screaming at me, calling me names. Okay. Don't take it personally. You are not these things. You are
Right.
not these things. Just know that coming from me, that is not true.
Yes.
They're saying things to hurt, trying to hurt.
Yes.
They're not saying anything from
It's
a rational
a form
perspective.
of manipulation.
Detach from that. Detach from that. Be
Yes.
like, you know what? That's your opinion, and it's wrong.
Yeah.
And I can't help the fact you've got dumb opinions.
Yeah.
Leave it at that.
You're so good at that. That's like what we talked about with my pants today.
Yeah.
You said, oh, I like those shoes with those pants. I was like, oh, thank you. He's like, yeah, they're bell bottoms. It looks good. I'm like, no, these are wide leg pants. He's like, no, you're wrong. They are bell bottoms. And I'm going to say you're wrong until you prove me wrong.
Prove me otherwise.
Yeah. And he was so adamant about it. Like he was like, these are bell bottoms. I'm like, you're
And
dumbass.
then she showed me some pictures. I'm like, dang, I'm sorry. Those are wide leg pants.
You did not say I'm sorry. You said.
Yes, I did.
No, you acknowledged it.
No, I said I'm sorry.
I don't remember that.
I might have said my bad.
Either way, I don't care. I don't care.
Either way,
I don't care if you apologize or not.
But it's okay to
okay.
say that's a dumb opinion. That's a bad opinion you've got there. Okay, you can keep it.
Yes.
Totally fine.
Do not take what they say seriously.
Don't take it personally.
Even though it sucks because this is the person you married, but this is the reality that you are in, and it's better if you don't take it personally because it'll help you see things clearly.
Remember, consider the source of the information. Consider where it's coming from. Consider the context.
They're
at this moment.
irrational.
They're very irrational. This is not the person that you got started with. This is not the person with all that potential. This is someone in the grips of addiction.
Yes.
That's it. Consider going to another room or leaving the home altogether.
Yes.
Another good way to get away from this thing and have
I think
it
we've
not
talked about
feel
in
so
that
personal.
Communication and stuff. Like it's okay. That's a part of detaching. You're just not going to put your energy into the mess.
But I think that the most important of all these, like examples, you have to remove all the expectations of this person.
Yeah.
Expectations are resentment in the making.
Yeah.
When you expect someone to do something different than they have shown you, you are going to get resentful when they don't do it. Mm-hmm. This person is creating resentments every day because we don't. It's weird that we don't expect us to do what we do because we should expect it.
Yeah.
But no, you never really get used to someone relapsing or drinking like at your kid's birthday party or like doing drugs at your mom's house. Like you don't get used to these things, but they are to be expected. These they're showing you. If you ever want to know what your expectations for someone should be, watch them and record what they do. Those are the expectations you should have. They should not be what you think they should do.
Right.
They should be what they actually are doing. When you can separate the expectation from what someone's actually doing, it becomes easier to see them for what they really are. It becomes easier to detach with love. It becomes easier to fall out of love with the potential.
Yeah.
And to let go and let them be who they are. And okay, it's definitely not what I wanted. We can all agree with that. It's painful. Yes, very. But it's reality.
Yeah.
And accepting that reality is important. Like your serenity is proportional to your acceptance.
Yeah.
And it's also inversely proportional to your expectations. The higher your expectations are, lower your acceptance, lower your serenity, lower your peace. When your acceptance and your acceptance of reality is greater than or equal to the expectations, things are all right.
Yeah.
But when we look at someone and we think that, why are they doing that? They're supposed to be doing this. They should be doing that. Let's not should all over ourselves. Let's see what they really are. This is who they are. Okay, so what is it not though? Walk me through where this often goes wrong.
It's not punishing your partner. So kind of like what we talk about with boundaries. It's not to punish anybody. It's not to actually prove a point to them. You know, it's all about you and what you want.
You're removing the focus from them and what they should be doing and what you think they should be doing, and you're putting it back on yourself.
Yeah. And it's not like completely ignoring them, which is what you said earlier.
Yeah, a lot of people struggle with that. They're like,
but it's okay. Listen, it's okay if you're doing that and you're like, oh God, am I doing that? And it's practice. Like, you're going to go one way or the other. You're going to go back and forth until you find the middle ground that works for you. But it's not ignoring them, but also, you, like I said earlier, disengaging with arguments. I mean, that's not ignoring, but you're disengaging from the argument. That's detaching.
Mm-hmm. What else?
I wanted you to touch on that one.
Okay. A lot of times people withhold physical intimacy, sex. People withhold sex.
Yeah.
As a way to punish their partner, to let them show that something's not right in our relationship.
Right.
Because a lot of guys are just like ridiculous horn dogs, and like that's what a relationship is to them.
Mm-hmm.
And the only way that a lot of women can get across is just by like, okay, well, we're not doing that anymore. And they're like, oh, well, what's wrong, honey? Now they want to talk.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times people will do that as a way to withdraw from the relationship and to detach.
Right.
A lot of times when you're in these types of relationships, you're really not interested in being physically intimate anyway.
Yeah. Which is
but
acceptable.
if you're doing it with the motivation that I'm going to change them,
yeah,
that's not detaching.
Right.
That is
manipulation.
Right. That's totally different.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there was that one note that I wrote on here, and I don't remember what you said about a movie script.
Okay. Yeah. So
do you remember what you said?
Yeah. So if I had to describe how to do this, play along with me here. Okay. Play along with me as I run you through this.
You're so good at this stuff.
I'm not.
Oh my God. Can you please?
I explained it well earlier, but now I've got to remember exactly how it all went down. But if I was going to describe to somebody how to detach with love, here's what I would say.
Okay.
Let's pretend, for sake of argument, that you are an actress or an actor, whichever one, and I wrote you a movie script where you are in a relationship with an alcoholic or an addict, and they're physically, emotionally, verbally abusive to you. And in this movie, this is the kind of movie where you become incredibly empowered, you learn a lot about yourself, and you get super serious about taking a new direction, and you move away. You move to a different state with your children. You get away from them totally. In this movie, how would you be acting? How would you act the part? You'd be really heartbroken. You'd be questioning everything you did, but you would be committed to yourself and what you want in life. You'd be committed to your dreams. Mm-hmm. You would think about that person. How would you think about them? Would you be angry, resentful? No, I want you in this movie, I want you to be sad. I want you to think about them and be loving and compassionate to what they're going through, but also choose not to be involved. How would you play that part if you were that actress? That's what detaching with love looks like. And I want everyone to kind of run that movie through their head. You're the star of your own movie. You're the star of this show. I want you to be that person in that movie. I want you to think about who you would be if you had to do this down the road. We don't leave to punish other people. We don't leave angry. You can leave, especially an addict or someone who's dealing with something like this, with compassion, with love, without resentment, and understand they've got their own crap going on, but I don't have time for that.
Yes.
I've got one life to live.
And I don't have to tolerate it.
I don't have to tolerate the abuse. I don't. And you can have compassion that they're going through their stuff, and also decide, I'm not dealing with this anymore.
Exactly.
I'm not doing this anymore.
That's how you become non-resentful.
That is what the path of detaching with love looks like, emotionally, internally, in your mind, like mentally. This is what has to happen. It's so difficult though.
Yeah.
Because again, it's a paradox, and it's not something that you just decide to do today. You don't decide, all right, I'm going to emotionally and mentally in my own head fall out of love with somebody today.
Well, it's not falling out of love with them.
Sort of is. It sort of is in some ways.
I mean, I guess you're right, because I was pretty numb at that point.
You're not committed to the future anymore when you're detaching with love. You're not committed to all the dreams that you had.
But I detach with love. So that's why you're confusing me now.
Okay, so I'm confusing. You still detach to allow me to experience natural consequences.
Yes.
But we have
not even that.
But we also have a supportive, interdependent, loving relationship.
Yes.
Where each of us support each other.
Right.
If something were to happen to me, you wouldn't be doomed. Oftentimes these relationships are like, I don't know what I would do without this person. I can't imagine living without them. Like, yeah, we all might say these things, but I know that you would be okay. Yeah. There's one time in our lives where that would not be the case.
Right.
When you started to detach with love, you came to understand that you were strong enough to do this one way or another. I could be along for the ride or not. It was my decision.
Right.
And you have to get to a place where you feel strongly enough about that. Like, you have to be independently strong. You have to be that way.
Yes.
sometimes this can even serve two purposes. For us, I know for our friends Steve and Christine, that detaching with love process got me sober. It got him sober too.
Right.
But it serves two purposes. If we didn't, you still would have been okay.
Right. Right.
You still would have been okay. You'd be heartbroken, but you could also look back and say,
it would be hard.
You know what? I feel for him. He's struggling. I hope one day he figures it out. But
I did what's best for me.
I had to do what was best for me, my kids, my family, myself.
Yes.
I had to do what's best for me.
Yes.
That's what detaching love is like. I think a better synopsis of detaching with love than the first time around. But it's still not something you're going to figure out like this week, this month even. Like this takes time.
Yeah.
The concept takes time. You have to get to a place where those expectations are realistic. And that means looking at the reality of the situation, which is often really painful.
Yes.
And it's hard to do honestly sometimes.
Yes, it is.
Because you're going to want to defend them. You're going to want to justify. You're going to want to like to try to rationalize it. But no, he was having a tough time. His mother just died. And he's all these things that we do. No, reality is reality. Write it down. Same thing with sports. There was this great football coach named Bill Parcells. And he used to say, you are what your record says you are.
Yes.
So if you were a 6-10 team, but everyone said you were great, he would say, you're not great. I don't care what kind of potential you have. Look at your record. That's what you are. Same with addicts and alcoholics. We are what our record says we are. I got lucky. I got really lucky. We got lucky with timing. We were incredibly young when all this happened. But I know that if this would have kept up any longer, you were already detaching with love. Right. And reattachment for us did look like a totally new relationship, by the way.
Yeah, it did.
Like things didn't go right back to normal. And I'm glad they didn't, because that wasn't a healthy relationship.
Right.
That was a very one-sided relationship. That was an abusive relationship. That was not a good place.
Reattaching is basically building back trust too.
It's rebuilding trust. It's rebuilding the relationship from scratch.
And yeah.
You start over fresh. You start over new.
Yeah.
So I hope that's helpful for people. It's a loaded concept and it takes time. Be gentle with yourself as you're going through it.
Yeah, and I'm sure we'll have another episode on it in like 6 months.
We probably will. And that's fine. That's totally fine.
Shifts,
I could talk about this all day. And I hope we do our part in finding better ways to describe this, explain this, and walk people through this. And this upcoming year, we're going to have a lot more guests on our show. And we're going to talk to people that have walked this. And we're going to get their perspectives on what it was like for them. There's nothing easy about it. But I think what's cool about that is you're going to hear a perspective from not just us. And you're going to hear what it's like for maybe someone else you relate to in a different way. They're going to have their own take on it. But look at it from 30 different ways. It's still all the same in the bones of it. And we've walked you through the foundations of detaching with love.
Yeah.
Removing those expectations, understanding that this is who this person is, coming from a place of love and compassion, but also walking away. It's like that gray area. It's so hard to get to. The third option is like, we're told, wait, there's a third way. We can do this another way.
Yeah. And
you might stay in that spot for a while. You might stay in this detachment phase for quite some time.
You might not be ready to start this phase yet.
You were there. If I remember correctly, my memory's a little fuzzy,
I mean, it's a lot.
But I want to say about a year, roughly.
Yeah.
Maybe about 9 months.
Yes. I think that when I had our first kid.
When our daughter was born, is about the time.
Is when I started really thinking about it.
Yeah. Listen, my expectations are this. You're not meeting them. I'm walking. Yeah. But you don't just do that overnight.
Yeah. I didn't tell you either.
You just did it.
I just did things.
You just did it. And I knew I was losing you. I knew it. And
it was hard though. It was like it sucked. It wasn't easy.
It was a dark time.
But it was just natural. Lives. Yeah, that was very dark time.
I think back on that time and it's like so dark. And I mean dark, like, so emotions are all colored. Like emotions have colors. That one is dark gray for me. It's bad. That period of time in our lives where you were walking away from me and so sad, but your head was up and you were still walking. And I was back there lost. And I was like, I'm going to lose her. I know I'm going to lose her. And that's what got me sober. But I think the beauty in it is I know what would have happened and what that story would have looked like if I never did. I probably would have been dead within a couple of years. You would have been heartbroken, sure. You would have had compassion for what I was dealing with, but you also would have been incredibly upset with me, angry with me.
Yes.
But you would have carried on. You would have moved on. Like, listen, I got to. I have to. I have to do it for me. I have to do it for my children. That's another piece too. Like, consider the fact that kids are involved in this. Man, we've talked about what it does to families, what it does to children. You don't want this person influencing your children.
Right.
It's not healthy.
Right.
Not healthy at all. So consider that as well. Maybe that's motivation for you.
Yeah, and then we start taking on those toxic traits too, and it can be passed on to our kids.
Yeah.
That's what was happening with me. Totally different episode.
We'll get there. All right, so hope this is helpful.
Yeah.
Hope this was in some way enlightening. Hope it was inspiring for some. I hope that it was educational.
Yeah.
Really, at the end of the day, that's what I hope it was.
Right.
But thank you for being here with us. Thank you for always being there. I think that we do this for you guys, and every time we hear from someone, every time we get an email, every time we get a message that someone learned something or someone's changed the behaviors or things are getting better or it woke their spouse up and they're working toward recovery. Like, we can't tell you guys how much that means to us.
Yeah.
Like,
it's beautiful.
Really. Like, it's insane to think that something good came of this.
Yeah.
This situation that I created.
Well, it helps on our recovery too.
Yeah. It strengthens our recovery as well. So it's like, it's beautifully selfish in some ways, you know? It's incredible. But
selfish.
Thank y'all for being here,
Yeah.
and we love you all. Until next time, I am Matt.
I'm Paige.
And we'll see you.
Bye.